Welcome back to the video tutorials. In this one, we'll be going over how to input a listing in Garden State MLS. So if you're watching this video, I'm hoping that you actually are inputting your very first listing, and if that's true, congratulations. But this process is going to go over the various ways to find information for filling out the listing agreement, and not listing agreement rather, but inputting the MLS listing and what you need to do prior to getting to this point. So we'll first start with how to access the Garden State MLS portal and inputting the listing itself. So at the top under Agent Management, under the first tab, we have View and Edit Agent Inventory. As you rest your mouse over this, it's going to come up with a list to the right-hand side. The first one, we're going to go to Add Listing, but also as you end up having an active inventory, you can scroll through this and see the properties that you have currently as active, under contract, continue to show temporarily. So if you need to make any edits to these properties after it's already listed, in the case where you want to edit any photos or you want to add an open house and whatnot, this is like the section to do that. And you can also bring up your total inventory as well. But for right now, we're just going to go to Add Listing. Cool. So it automatically brings you to the tab for Incomplete, which is where you go and add the listing. If you go to any of these tabs, it's just like we saw before. On the right-hand side, it'll show up your different inventory that you end up having. So for right now, I don't have any incomplete listings in the system. I'm going to click Add. Then it prompts us to select the type of listing that we're going to put up. Residential and multifamily are going to be pretty much the same process. And those are the ones that we're going to go over today, so I'm going to assume that we're putting in a residential listing. Under auto-populate, it's going to want to first have you put in the address of the property or find the information for the property so it can populate from what it already has in the system regarding the tax record and whatnot. So we want to first input, if you have all this information and you want to use the auto-populate, I think it's really a good tool to use. So I'm going to choose a listing that I already actually have in Garden State MLS just because I know it's easier. This property is in Essex County. The town is in Belleville. And again, this is just to look for the property as it appears in the tax record. So the street number is 142 Cedar Hill. So I'm going to start with 142 and end at 142. Street name, Cedar Hill. And the reason why it gives you the option to start and end at different numbers is like you could have a property that's a multifamily that has like an address like 12-14, if it's two family, or even if it's a four family or something like that, or it could have like a dash in the address, and this is a good way to be able to find it. And also if you don't have the exact address for this property and you want to mail to certain people as well, this is a good way to pull from the tax record to show like all the properties that appear with this street name, with this street number. And you might want to do that for various reasons, but it's going to pull all the properties on Cedar Hill in Essex County. And it's only going to come up with one property, most likely, because I have just the street address being 142. And this should be enough information to populate it. If you have the owner's name, you might be able to get away with just inputting the owner's name right there and not putting in the rest. But the more information you have, the easier it is to complete the search. And here we go. It pops up with the one listing, and I can hit auto-populate. And it then first brings to the map, and if this is where it appears on the street, you can always hit Save Map. Now you already get to see the auto-populate information that brings up, such as the zip code, the lot and block number, so you don't have to go through the MLS to actually look up that information, which is fantastic. It brings you directly to property information, which we don't really need right now. So auto-populate, it comes up with this information. It's showing who we're pulling from in the taxes and the total assessment. We could adjust the map, but we were just there. So going back to property information, this is where we input the list price for the property. So whatever the property is going to be listed for, that's where you list it. Whatever's on the MLS agreement that you have signed, that is where you would put that. List date for the property has to align with the list date on the MLS sheet. So make sure that that's true. Same with the expiration date. And possession, whenever the property is going to actually be possessed by the new buyer, which most likely is going to be at closing for most people. Again, it's already auto-populated with the county number, the county name, the town code, the town name. And as you can see, all this relevant information as well. Anything highlighted in red that has an asterisk next to it is a required field. So just know that all of these are required to be filled out prior to inputting the listing, or for the listing to go live, rather. So taking a look, checking off everything, making sure you're doing it. I know this is a single family, community living. Probably belongs to associations such as like a homeowners association or building association. That's going to be if it's like in a condo or townhome complex where you have stuff like the homeowners association taking care of like a bunch of stuff for you, living in a specific community where you have a management company. So no for this one. FHA or 55 plus, like is it an adult community? No for this one. If the property is an adult community for you, make sure you click off yes. If you have this information, it's most likely because it's in an apartment complex or like a condo complex, townhome complex, in which case you can go ahead and fill this out. Block and lot number, as I said before, already filled out. If you do know the section and subdivision for this particular property, I would definitely include it because it makes it easier to search. So if you have a listing and it's in a specific section, adding more information is going to make it easier for other agents to be able to search for your property to then send over to your client. So if an agent has a client that's looking in for a specific section and whatnot, if you provide that information, it'll appear under their searches if they have it, to email about specific sections. Color of the building, section subdivision. Color of a building might help to identify where this is in a complex if there's multicolored buildings. Grade school, middle school, high school. Again, you could go on greatschools.org, put in the property address, find out exactly where the schools are attached to this property, or ask the sellers. But again, the school, the website is greatschools.org. Ownership type, fee simple for this one, but again, if it's condo or co-op or ground lease, make sure that you select that. Ground lease is going to be more for like mobile homes and whatnot, so not too typical. Possible other uses, if there are any. Zoning, if you know the zoning, again, that's not required for this particular thing, but maybe that would be more useful for like a commercial listing or something like that, or if it's mixed use. And it's zoned as residential, but also allows for commercial, you might want to add the zoning to that. Pets, if they're allowed. So if it's a single family home, most of the time there's no pet restrictions, unless it's in a community or managed with a management company and whatnot. They might have restrictions, but it's not going to be the case for this one. It's where you put the amount of rooms in the house. So this is not the bedrooms. The bedrooms are to the right of it. This is the rooms. So this counts for like kitchen, bathrooms, living room, dining room, bedrooms, all that stuff. Anything that counts as a room is where you put it up here. Bedrooms are up here. This is where you input how many full bathrooms, how many half bathrooms, the approximate lot size. It already pulled from the tax record. If it didn't come up, you definitely want to find out from the homeowners exactly how much that is. But for the most part, it'll always pull from the tax record. Construction or date or year built, that should have pulled from the tax record, and it didn't in this case. So if you want to go back to the tax record and actually look up what they have as the approximate date for this, you can definitely find that and then just hit approximate. Renovated year, if you know your client has renovated the property, and they have proper documentation to be able to justify that, you can go ahead and give them the renovated year that the property was done. Next section, section 38, is where you're going to actually check off the style of home. So definitely know the style of home prior to getting to this point, and hopefully you already know the style of the home prior to listing in the MLS, because you should have ran comps and you should have gotten all the information that you needed from the homeowners, but that should be a no-brainer. Checking off whether the property has a basement or not. Again, it's a no-brainer. That's something you should know how to do. Basement description. Check this information off based off of what the property ends up having. Roof description. Guys, it always helps if you have a seller's disclosure filled out prior to listing a property, because if you have a seller's disclosure, all of these nuances and all of these questions are going to be answered prior to putting the information in the MLS. And this saves a lot of time and hassle from you having to make a bunch of notes and then call the homeowner later on and say, oh, I don't remember exactly what the property had, which can be kind of embarrassing and stuff that I'm sure the homeowner assumed that you already knew. So definitely get a seller's disclosure filled out. Take proper notes. If you're watching this video prior to actually getting a listing, get familiar with this for everything you actually need, so you can have a checklist of all the info that you need prior to getting to this point, so you can get all this information, so you're not putting this MLS listing in the night before you should be, and then are frantically trying to get a hold of the homeowners to answer questions like what roof tiling they use or something like that. Input the amount of garage spaces the property has and the description to the garage. Scrolling down, how many parking spaces there are. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the parking spaces and garage spaces are the same thing. They could have a lot behind the house. They could have an extra wide driveway, and you could count some of those as actually being parking spaces. And then you want to elaborate on section 47, check off what this the parking situation is for this particular property. Lot description, this one you want to be careful with because it can be kind of confusing and misleading to certain people. Like, if you don't have this information filled out correctly, it can really screw with the searches if people are, really using advanced searches for properties in a specific area. So make sure that you have that actually filled out correctly, or leave it blank if you really don't know. Exterior description. This should be on the seller's disclosure. You should also just know this based off of looking at the property. Verify that with the homeowner prior to checking off the boxes. If the property has a pool, check it off, and then elaborate on the type of pool that is attached to the property or that is at the property. And then if you leave the certain section without filling something out, you're automatically going to have these red exclamation points and flags that pop up saying that you didn't completely fill out that section. And if you try and submit the listing, it's not going to allow you to do that until you have all of those sections filled out. But if you need to go back to it, always save as incomplete, because if you're filling this out and you don't hit save, and whatever your internet crashes, or if you're like, oh, I need to check the tax record, you exit out of this, you're going to have to start over from the last time it's saved. And I can't tell you how many times that's happened to agents. So make sure that you save before exiting, always. Remarks is going to be the section in which all of the information that the buyer is going to be viewing on websites like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com. So this is where you create the descriptions and the remarks and whatnot. Also, the information that you want to convey to agents specifically that's not going to appear online is here, and we'll go through that. So on the MLS sheet, it's going to come up with exclusions. So anything that the homeowner is planning on excluding from the property, maybe like certain fixtures, maybe like a chandelier, maybe like a pool table or a shed out back, all of that stuff needs to be included into this. So anything that is not being left at the property should be added to this section, unless it's something like a personal item, like obviously furniture and whatnot does not need to be added. But I would always say to add all personal belongings to this description, just so that there's no confusion. Directions, you have to, when you're coming off of a main road, you want to put the main road and the roads leading up into the house as part of the directions. I know people don't need that anymore, but it's just one of the requirements you have to put in the system. I know everybody uses GPS these days, and I know that it's absolutely useless to fill it out, but it's something we have to do anyway. Client remarks. So between the first client remarks and 56, the second client remarks, you have a total of 820 characters that you can use to do the description. They don't give you any more than that. So anything that you put in client remarks and additional client remarks is going to appear on the mentioned websites, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, all of like the Garden State, all of the different other like real estate broker websites that your property is going to appear on. This is the description. So this is very important to have filled out. You definitely want to take your time with this. Make sure that you create a good description for the property. Good idea is to go to other real estate professionals that you do respect and that you see are competent listing agents, and see how they go about writing their remarks and descriptions. And obviously you don't want to rip off somebody's and paste it onto yours, because I'm assuming their property has at least some differences and nuances to yours. So, but you can copy like the way in which they phrase things, or you can copy some of their vocabulary to make yours, sound, up to par with that of a top producer. Agent remarks section is not going to appear on Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, all those other sites. It's only going to be with someone with MLS access. So any information that you need to deliver to an agent that you might not want revealed to the general population is where you input it through here, whether it's additional showing instructions, whether it's the property being a short sale or not, whether it's like just private information that only agents are supposed to know. This is where you add that, and you only have 200 characters to do it. So, you can be brief with the descriptions. Most agents understand the brevity. Dimensions, filling out this page, like a lot of agents will like click through a lot of these things and not add dimensions to the rooms because they just simply don't have it. But you'll notice that the people that do take the time to fill this out or do have this information, their listing sheets always look just superior to everybody else's. So if you do have the dimensions to the rooms, make sure that you actually fill that out. Take the time to do it. It really does help. And it really does like cut down on useless showings that you have. If the room sizes end up being smaller than what somebody's client is going to want, there's no point in having them come to the house if the agent already knows that those rooms are going to be too small. So definitely fill that out. Living room, you choose the respective room and what floor they're going to end up on. Obviously, most of the time, the living room is going to be on the first floor, dining room is going to be first floor. But as you get down to the different bedrooms and whatnot, that's when it can start to change for the different levels. And all of this stuff is going to appear on the MLS and just really paint a picture of what the property looks like. Obviously, you want good pictures that do that for you, but it's also a good cheat sheet for the agent to just look through to understand what type of property they've been in. Since most agents have been in hundreds, if not thousands of properties, they'll be able to visualize in their head what the property is going to look like based off of this description alone and based off of this section. Other rooms, so any additional rooms that might not be your standard addition to property, like a sauna. I know that a sauna is not typical for most properties. At least I wish it was, but it's not. Great rooms, like different rooms in general, like any additional rooms for the first floor you can add here. Other rooms to second floor you can add there. Other rooms like the third room, like this isn't actually like for levels. I'm sorry, this is for like any additional rooms that it doesn't have up here at the top. And then you could add the dimensions to that as well. And then this is the section I actually meant to before. This is just Any rooms that are in the basement, you check off. Any rooms that are ground level, check off. Level 1, check off. Level 2, check off. And level 3, check off. All of those. Kitchen and kitchen description, whether or not it has eating kitchen, whether or not it has a center island, and just filling out all this information completely. I know you guys don't need me to explain everything, but again, only the things that are checked off in red are going to be necessary. So there's definitely parts of it that are necessary and others that aren't. But again, this ends up being something where a lot of agents will just skim through for like the dimensions and whatnot. But again, it does help your listing if you have it more filled out. Utilities, refer to the seller's disclosure, refer to the information that you should have already gotten from your client when attempting to comp the property in the first place. It's all right here. Check off the boxes, things that you need. Financial information. This is great because like a lot of this is just pulled from the tax record anyway. And anything in red is required. If there's any easements, check it off. Most people check unknown unless they actually know. If you're very confident that there's no easements, you can check that off, but most people just check unknown. Association maintenance fee, like again, that's for like condos, townhomes, different properties like that, co-ops, and how often these fees are incurred, what the maintenance fees include, application fees. It's usually application fees like capital contribution and whatnot when joining like a homeowners association. So if you don't know what it is, ask the seller or call the management company yourself and get a copy of what their requirements are. Most of the time you have 2 to 3 times the maintenance fee ends up being what the application fee ends up being. Don't use that as a blanket, though, for all these properties. That's just simply not true. That's just the average. So office information. This just goes back to the listing sheet. You should have all this information, anything for the buyer's broker, transaction broker, sub-agent compensation, variable commissions. You guys should know all this if you've watched the videos on Dot Loop and like the different contracts. And this is just simply where you input all this information, whether or not there's a sign on the property. Showing instructions, typing in the showing instructions, make sure that the owner's name is correct. If you don't want the owner's name there, I believe for this MLS you can type in withheld, so you can delete the information, withheld, and don't hold me to it. There should be no reason why your client's information wouldn't appear on the MLS sheet. It's not going to appear online, but if you don't want their information out there, you can always put withheld, I believe, for this MLS. Owner's phone number. I would not put the owner's phone number unless this owner is like handling the showings themselves for some reason. Like if you have a client that owns a multifamily and they're the ones that are going to be calling all the tenants to schedule showings, it's pretty dicey. Like if you don't sell the property, it ends up expiring. You're just giving the seller's phone number out there. Just know that like unless they're handling the showings, their phone number should not be up there. But even if they are handling the showings, like you really should be trying to handle the showings for them. So you're adding value, but again, to each their own. Management association name, management association number, definitely get that from the homeowners, and check whether or not you want it to appear on GardenStateMLS.com. It does have a portal for the average user or the non-realtor to search through properties. So if you do want it to appear on that site, definitely click yes. I don't think there's any harm to doing it. And then when you're ready at the top, you can hit submit. It's going to then prompt you. After you submit it, it's going to come up with, we're going to discard the listing. It's going to come up over here under active, and then that's when you would check off the listing, hit edit media, and then that's where you're going to go ahead and add the pictures. So this is like, essentially you're just going to see this is blank and it's going to say add images. You add the images that you want, put in the descriptions if you like. and it logged us out of the MLS. But that was the end of the video anyway. It just allows you to edit the images, or the media and images based off of that. And then through that portal alone, and let's try and get back in there. So we can edit the media, go and do the images. If you're wanting to change the advertising in any way, like any of the remarks, descriptions, anything like that, edit advertising is the way to go. Add, edit, open house. Paperwork, if you want to attach the seller's disclosure and the lead-based paint to the MLS, which you should be doing anyway, go ahead to the paperwork. You want to email this to a property to your client, go for it. But essentially, and if you need to make any other changes based off of that, you can click edit. It'll bring you right back into all the information that you have. And that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful to you. Again, if you have any questions, you should have my number, and you can always give me a call or ask one of the other agents that you're close to be able to help you with this. Thanks for watching.